Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dr. Chantel Chats, where I help you feel more confident and have less stress post-college. So by today's thumbnail and title, you're probably wondering what's going on and what I'm going to talk about. In today's video, I'm going to respond and react to one of Caleb Hamer's most recent financial audits. And so if you're not familiar with who Caleb Hamer is, he's a financial guru, coach here on YouTube who conducts these financial audits with people who are in pretty tough financial positions. And so in one of his most recent episodes, he had a guest on there who was a recent college grad and who was in a pretty tough spot when it came to kind of her educational and career trajectory and path. And so don't worry, I'm not going to be responding to any of the financial content or any of his advice. Rather, he is the perfect person to do that. I do have something to say, however, in terms of his guest kind of educational and career path, as if I was her friend or mentor or coach, and how I would kind of coach her or guide her through these next steps in her journey. And so hopefully this video will be helpful to you if you find yourself in a similar position, questioning grad school, how to utilize your degree right now to make income, and then save that for grad school later, all that good stuff. So I wanted to throw that out there, that I'm not going to be giving any financial advice, that you should go visit his channel for that. But I think I can give some advice on if I was coaching this guest and kind of what I would help her or kind of guide her in the right direction to do. Without further ado, and that being said, let's hop into today's video and this financial audit.
I'm Elise. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. I'm 24, and this is Financial Audit.
What do you do in Houston for a living?
I'm a cashier at HEB.
Oh, this explains. Okay, so all
those HEB purchases, those are my taquitos.
Yeah, your taquitos, dude. You're going crazy. And I wouldn't.
You got me.
So if we're cashiering at HEB, what are we making an hour?
$17.40.
If we're making $17.40, how many hours a week?
About 25 to 30.
Okay, so 25 and 30.
But here's the thing, I'm studying for the LSAT to go to law school, so that takes up a lot of time.
All right, so just off the bat, given some background, we have Elise here. She is currently working at HEB for almost $18 an hour and currently studying for the LSAT, which I don't think is a bad thing. I definitely encourage people to work to help fund their grad school education. I think this is a very smart route, and it sounds like she's just working part-time right now, which she'll kind of unpack as we get into the rest of the video. But right off the bat, it sounds good to me. I think this is a great plan if I was coaching or mentoring her to try to work to help fund grad school education.
Okay, so that takes up time. I'm okay with you working a little less hours if we're studying for that to get into a law school to do the career we want to do. But if we're doing that, why are you going crazy with your spending?
That's a question I don't really have an answer to.
Oh, you gotta have an answer to that. If HEB pays you, why are you giving them money when you can't afford to simply...
Yeah, so he just kind of talks about her spending is out of control. And I'm going to fast forward a few minutes because I want to start kind of my reaction and comments where they begin to talk about her law school and kind of educational path from here. So I'm going to jump forward a few minutes to dive into that conversation.
What I'm spending, stuff like that.
So we had $1,348 come in.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
If you weren't living with your dad, that's not livable.
At all, no.
Now you're trying to go to law school. Any specific, or does it matter?
Yes. Is it specific? I want to go to a good law school.
Subjective,
but
right?
Yeah, that's debatable on what's good. So.
And also, how much does that matter in the world of law?
It matters a lot. It's not like going to undergrad and, getting a degree from anywhere. It doesn't matter. Getting a degree from anywhere in undergrad is fine for the admissions process. But where you go to law school gives you access, opportunity, prestige.
Okay, this is kind of where I begin to see her thinking kind of be a little bit skewed or just not accurate. When it comes to advanced degrees, you're there on assignment, you're there on mission, and a future employer just wants to see that you actually completed the degree. I don't know about you all, but when I've gone to my medical doctor or to a dentist, I've never chosen someone based on where they went to school. The main thing to me is that they know how to clean teeth, they know how to perform a surgery, and that they actually completed the training to get to that point. I've never gone to the dentist and been like, okay, you didn't go to this school, you went to this school, peace out, I'm not going to get my teeth cleaned by you. It just doesn't work that way. What employers want to see, especially more specialty employers, those that are in the field of law or different law firms, is that you completed your degree, which is a major accomplishment in and of itself, and they're not as focused on where you went to law school. Now, some employers may have a bias toward a certain school, which, you know, you'll hear her talk about shortly, which kind of school she's looking at. But if an employer is just hiring based off of school and not really like your experience, or if you actually completed your law degree, then you probably shouldn't be working there in the first place. But rankings don't matter as much. What matters is you completed your degree.
Stuff like that.
Okay. So if we go to a good law school, probably going to like a private law school, I'm assuming.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
like,
so a good public one.
Like UT is one. UT is one here in Austin. That's one. Another one is the University of Michigan. That's a public one.
And that's out of state.
Very far, yes.
Yes.
Virginia, that's another one.
Out of state. So this all of a sudden becomes very expensive if we're getting overdrafted multiple checking accounts and we're not even able to pay our credit card.
Yeah, so let's pull up the rankings for the University of Texas Law School. All right, number 16 in best law school. That's incredible. That's top 20. So right in her backyard, she has a top 20 law school. And then you can kind of see their other rankings. They're number 19 in business and corporate law. They're number 9 in constitutional law. That's pretty cool. I mean, you can see here all their other rankings are really impressive. And let's look at the University of Michigan. Number 10, 6-point difference. 6 points. An employer is not going to hire you because you went to Texas, which is 6 points below Michigan. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. So you have 2 great law schools that she's looking at. It would make more sense to stay in state, which we'll get into later, and go with what's right in her state, in her backyard in Texas. But in terms of just rankings, though, 1, they don't matter as much as you think they do. But 2, we've seen that Texas is only 6 points away from Michigan. They're all top 20. An employer just wants to see your completion. So I think this is kind of where, in terms of her career and education, her thinking is kind of skewed, which you'll find out why. If I was coaching her, I would pull up these stats. I would make her research the rankings and actually think about, what do these numbers mean to you, and why are you so focused on Michigan over Texas?
How in the possible are we paying for law school?
Basically, loans. That's what my parents want me to do. And if I do it well enough on the LSAT, I'll get scholarship.
Yeah, but your parents.
Okay, before we dive into her parents and the student loans thing, if I was coaching her, kind of going back to the rankings real quick, if I was coaching Elise or kind of guiding her, even just her friend and recommending what to do, I would tell her to begin researching these law schools, begin researching factors that actually matter. What matters is the employment of graduates. What matters is the bar exam pass rate for a school. What matters is the internships or clerkships or things that you can do to get experience during your program. Rankings don't matter as much, and so I would encourage her to think about, why are you leaning toward Michigan? Does Michigan have a certain specialty that you prefer over Texas? Like, what about Michigan, or what about Texas, or what about Virginia? But in this case, a much more financially responsible choice would be Texas, obviously. So if I was coaching her, we would jump right into the numbers. I would have her look at different specialties she might be interested in and think about how that's going to probably not play a big picture in your career long term and cost you more money potentially by going out of state.
So why do we care what they want you to do?
Basically,
I mean, your life is your life.
That's true. But living with my dad, like, a part of his agreement is I have to go to law school, or basically I have to move out. And he wants me to stay in Houston, but I don't really want to stay in Houston unless I have to. But that's his big thing. He went to college and he got several degrees, and he's like, your future is much brighter than mine. That's what I told him. And like recently.
Yeah, this is kind of the sad reality. You don't just have to be like a young recent college grad to kind of have your family or parents or other people's voices in your mind. Just kind of have it a narrative play in your mind that maybe you don't want for yourself. And so in terms of how to pay for this, I think she's doing the right thing by working right now at HEB. Would like to see her work more hours, but there's scholarships or other ways she could go about not having to rely as much on student loans. The reality is, if she's looking at these law schools that are out of state, she'll probably have to take out student loans. But to just tell your daughter, as her dad, telling your daughter that you just need to take out student loans for education because that's what you should do, that's what we all do, that's just not something very smart to do financially, because she's going to have to end up paying more later if she chooses a more expensive out-of-state school. So I would again tell her to focus on, do grads actually get jobs? What's the bar pass rate? Look at things that actually matter. And I would call the schools. So for example, she's interested in Texas and Michigan. Call these schools and tell them the situation. Tell them you're really interested, you're applying, but what are some things outside of, federal aid that you can do for scholarships, that you can do for opportunities, that you can work and go to law school, So there's other ways to do it. And, unfortunately, she's reliant on her parents financially, which also comes with their kind of outdated advice, narrative, whatever you want to call it, in her head, which is not something smart that she needs to be doing in the situation right now, given her current financial situation at this time.
Again, I don't give a shit about him. This is your life.
I told my mom I want to work for a couple of years so I can pay off all these debts and then go to law school when I'm ready. And she was like, that's not smart. You need to go as soon as you can. I'm like, Mom.
Are they wealthy?
No, we're very much suburban and middle class.
Okay, so they sound like, the people we should be listening to?
No, they're not. And
exactly, so why do you care? I mean, I get why you care, but why are you listening?
Because I don't want to live on my own, because I can't afford it.
Well, you said if you worked for a couple of years to pay off the debt, I could get you to the point where, what'd you graduate with in undergrad?
Political science.
I mean, we could get you a job in a sector that...
You guys, this is so important because she already has a degree. Last time I checked, I don't think you need a political science degree to work at HEB. I think she's underemployed because she has a degree. She just doesn't know how to apply and use her degree. So if I was coaching her, this is where I would have her get on LinkedIn. I would have her begin networking. I would have her use her parents' network. It seems like they might know a lot of people. I would have her take advantage of being in a major metropolitan city. So she's in Houston, or in the Houston area. And Houston is a great city. It has a lot of diversity. It has a lot of mission-driven organizations who I'm sure would take entry-level employees. And so I would tell her to utilize your city, utilize the resources that are available to you. I would tell her to go out in the community and see where the needs are and what organizations are looking to fill those gaps. But, it's not going to be a dream job. And that's what I said in one of my other videos before, is that your job or your second job out of college probably won't be where you're going to end up forever, what you're going to love doing. The point is, at least you can get some experience right now, begin building her resume, because most advanced degree programs actually want to see you have real world experience. They want to see that you can work with people, that you've been in a job for a while, that you have reported to someone, and that person can speak to your work ethic, your ability to collaborate, and so forth. And that's going to be a major benefit in your admissions process with law school, with other kind of advanced degree programs, depending on what it is. Now, for me, I didn't go straight through because my program didn't need as much kind of experience from undergrad or in between undergrad and me going to my graduate program, but something very specialized like a law degree or maybe even like an MBA. If you can get some experience on your resume, even for a year or two, and actually show the admissions team and the department that you've been in the real world, that you have worked with people, that you've done some kind of real applicable projects that you can take to law school, that's huge. And so the fact that she has a degree is major. A lot of people kind of crap on liberal arts degrees, or they say they're not as valuable. It just may take some more creativity to find a job. But I think in Elise's case, because she doesn't want to just have her poli-sci degree, she wants to go to law school, I think right now she can use her degree to actually move forward to begin getting skills and experience. Doesn't mean she has to quit HEB. Nothing that's wrong with HEB, but I do think she can use her degree, use what you went to school for 4 years, and begin getting experience that then you can take with you to law school. The last thing on this is that, she needs to begin also building connections and relationships professionally. So if I was coaching her, I would say another benefit of going into the workforce and using your degree is you are around a team, you have a manager, and you want to begin using those people and getting to know them for future references. Because a lot of advanced degree programs will require some kind of letter of recommendation from current or former manager. I know for my doctorate program, I had to have one from a former manager as well. So this is all kind of helping her form, having a stronger law school admissions process, if she can begin to build those relationships now. But the bottom line is she has a degree. Use your degree for an entry-level role. May not be your dream job, will not be your dream job, but take advantage of the connections, take advantage of being in Houston, of being in a vibrant metropolitan area that I'm sure could use someone like Elise, who seems to be very mission-driven, wants to go into law, so you have to be, right? And take advantage of what might be in your back door. It may take some more research. It may take some creativity, a unique process to kind of uncover the nonprofits or government agencies, but they're out there. She just doesn't have the skills and the education right now to figure out how to use her degree and how to kind of uncover those hidden gems that I'm sure are there in her area.
Has high demand still. Is it the dream job? Probably not, but only for a couple of years. You could have an apartment on your own in the Houston area or wherever.
Definitely.
And we could start paying off these debts and we could have enough money in our checking account. I'm sorry, but I want you to go to law school. That's fantastic. And even if you borrow a little,
Right,
I mean, depending
which
on how
is
we're
fine.
doing some things, there can be
Depending
good return
on how
on
it's
investments.
done.
That's a nuanced conversation. But with the money habits that we are about to go into, with where you're at right now,
I'm
and
gonna
how
be in debt
you're
forever.
operating,
No,
you
don't have
just
that
taking on
mindset.
an endless stream of student loans to go to law school means you are just dying in debt.
And that's something else. My dad, like I said, went to school, got all 3 of these degrees. He's still $100,000 in student loan debt 20 years later.
Again, him, he doesn't.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say F her dad, but I can say is that his approach, taking all this debt out for his education and wanting his daughter to do the same, it's just not going to work. It's not feasible. It's not beneficial for her financial future, especially if she goes out of state. She's going to have to use more money to pay back an out-of-state loan than if she was in-state. But that advice is just not good advice to give to someone ever, but especially someone kind of in her already pretty terrible financial situation.
But he's saying that's okay for me to do. And I'm like,
he's
it's
an
not,
addict
though.
to school. He's an addict to school. He's just one of the classic.
There are people who are addicts
love
at
college.
school.
College is a great path, and there's smart ways to go about it. There's stupid ways to go about it, but there's some people that only assume that going to college, getting the degree is what equals success.
Yeah, there are people who just continue to go through school and just take out loans and don't actually use anything that they learned in school, or they don't go get any experience. And it seems like her dad may be kind of in that camp, which is cool. If he can afford it, which it sounds like he can't, still in debt all these years later. But if someone can afford that, or if they do it through an employer, there's ways to continue education without it being a burden. A great one would be, we're in the information age, so YouTube videos, there's different boot camps and different courses and certifications you can get. But if you can get it through an employer that way and be reimbursed, or if they pay for it, there's other ways to continue learning without going into debt and then trying to project that onto your children that they need to do the exact same thing, because then they'll just continue the cycle and be in debt all those years later as well. All right, so from here, there's nothing really else on kind of the background of her education in school, and I'm going to go ahead and fast forward it to more of the end of the financial audit. So if you're familiar with the financial audit, he's going to go into her finances, look at her bank statements. I'm going to come in on the tail end of that and kind of pick up my reaction where they talk more about law school and kind of next steps to take moving forward.
When I could do work at a job and pay off my debt.
Yeah, I was going to say, because no matter what, you're going to be working your I'm sorry, but that's the prescription that's about to come. It's not an option. I want you to live the best life ever. I want you to live such a good life. Going down this path that you're going right now is seriously dying in poverty.
I'm going to die on the HEB floor.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. God forbid anything happens where you just can't work. What are you even doing then? Disability is not going to cover
Anything.
This is hard. But yes, I would delay law school for a couple of years. I want you to go. I want you to save up. I want you to pay off debt. Go in with an emergency.
I'll stop it there. I do agree that with Caleb here that she should delay law school because she has a degree. And again, using the degree, working maybe in an entry-level role, I'm sure she can make more than 17 or 18 an hour working entry-level to help save up for in-state law school. It doesn't make sense to go out of state. It doesn't make sense for her to also not be working in her field. And I'm just sure that she's unaware of how to go about getting a job in political science because there's so much flack on liberal arts majors. If you're in a liberal arts major or have a liberal arts degree, you may have to work a little bit harder to find a job, but it can be done. There's countless stories of people who are in well-paying jobs, who have grown in their career, who graduated in psych, who graduated in political science, who graduated in history or art and English, and are doing things now that are fulfilling for them. So don't let anyone tell you that a liberal arts degree is meaningless. I just think you have to work a little bit harder and kind of be more strategic in how you approach your career, but it can be done. It really can be done.
School that can have a good return on investment if you do it in a smart way. Again, I would prefer something in-state,
definitely
something public, university.
We ran kind of the stats. If I was coaching her, I would have her pull up the rankings. I would have her reach out to the school and talk to students, talk to alum, because it truly just doesn't make sense to go out of state. I don't know what she's thinking as far as like a law career, what kind of specialty. Maybe Michigan has a specialty that she just likes, but given the information in the financial audit, it seems best that she would stay in state and just really use what's in her backyard. Even if she doesn't want to go to the University of Texas, Texas has several great law schools she could go to.
University of Texas, I wouldn't go private. Even University of Michigan, I know they're a good school. I'm from the state of Michigan.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm from Kalamazoo, so the west side, but even still, the return on investment you're going to get on that versus going to University of Texas is going to be essentially nothing.
Because if she goes out of state, she'd have to end up paying more than having an in-state tuition in Texas or another Texas school.
Nothing. It's going to be nothing. Come on, let's be realistic.
She's retracting.
It depends on where you live.
No,
it depends on what you want to do after.
Yeah, but you're not going to live in Ann Arbor. There's nothing there.
Okay,
so
but if
matter.
I did get a degree in Ann Arbor, I could go work in a state like California, whereas if I got a degree here in Texas, it's not as transferable, if that makes sense.
No, and that just kind of tells me she hasn't done her homework. So again, if I was coaching her, like, look, you got to talk to people who've been at the school and talk to Michigan alum. What are they doing 2 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out? Who hires Michigan alum? What are the classes like? What's the support like? I mean, Michigan's a very rigorous law school. Not that many people get in. I don't know the percentage, but it's pretty low. And so I would tell her to like think about those things. Think about after law school. Think long term in terms of how is Michigan opposed to Texas going to help my career? And it sounds like at this point, maybe she has done it now. This was a month and a half ago or so. When this was filmed, she hasn't done as much research in terms of actually talking to those who have been through the law schools, whether it's Texas, Michigan, Virginia, she mentioned. And that's what I would tell her to do here. I'm surprised Caleb didn't mention that or just ask her, have you reached out to anyone at Michigan or reached out to a professor? So if you find yourself in a similar situation, think about talking to current and former students. Talk to professors as well. Tap into the people who've gone through these programs. Where are they working? What are they doing? How has the school prepared them? Because if you don't get those questions answered or more clarity at least, it can really cost you more in paying student loans, so much more than if you just would have gone to an in-state school that's just as good. I don't know what she's passionate about. So I would ask her, what are you passionate about? What do you enjoy about law? Or what do you think you'll enjoy? What kind of specialty do you want to go into? Because it may be that Michigan might have a specialty over Texas, but I doubt it. Off of this conversation, that's not clear, but I would have her to clarify her goals for herself.
I think you're overthinking that really aggressively.
That.
I agree. If you go to University of Samoa,
there are some such sketchy schools, y'all, so stay away from those. There's some schools who aren't accredited properly. There's some schools who are just predatory financially. There's some schools who you don't take the right classes. Stay away from those kind of places, but she's kind of not in that camp. She's looking at very legitimate good schools, but not going about it, in my opinion, the right way just because she's not familiar with how to do so.
Or whatever his thing was. Yes, that's not going to hold the same weight as University of Texas, University of Michigan. And obviously something like Harvard's going to hold more weight than University of Michigan, University of Texas. University of Texas, University of Michigan, I can't speak on their... First of all, the school ranking things, they're all anyway, because a lot of it depends on...
I mean, as we saw,
not just that, but a lot of their rankings isn't even based on the success of graduates. It's like based on how many foreign exchange students are going there and a lot of stuff like that. It doesn't really make sense. But even on their school rankings, can't speak for the law school, but the schools are pretty darn close overall when it comes to comparison to every university. So you are overthinking it. I'm not saying go to some school in the middle of nowhere that no one's ever heard of. But if we're picking between our future and return on investment, I am picking the University of Texas any day and every day.
Absolutely.
And you probably will after I say this. The tuition at University of Texas is about $35 tuition. Tuition at Michigan, even though it's a public school, for in-state students, it's like $70. For out-of-state students, it's only like $75. So it's double what it would be here.
And it's
okay, so she's done her homework a little bit. She at least knows the tuition of the University of Michigan for in and out of state, or Texas compared to Michigan, which is good. So I was a little bit worried. It sounded like she hadn't done any homework, but the fact that she kind of is thinking about cost or has at least looked up the tuition and the difference between that, if I was coaching her, I would have her continue that train of thought and really want to dig in there and be like, okay, we've seen the tuition, it's vastly different. It totally makes sense for you to stay in state.
That you're not going to have the return on investment. You're not. The only thing you might miss on is some alumni networks, but University of Texas anyway, they have the largest endowment of any college in the country.
That's true.
Public, I think. They have what?
It might be A&M, but
no, it's the University of Texas. It is the University of Texas.
It's the University of Texas.
It doesn't matter.
No, it kind of does to what I'm about to say. If you're chasing the alumni network type thing, the reason why someone has such a big endowment is because the network is huge. There's a lot of rich motherfuckers who are given money. You're going to be surrounded by a good alumni network all over the country.
And this is going to sound stupid as well, but I also want to go to a bigger school because in undergrad, I really didn't get the college experience. So I kind of want to get that in law school. That makes sense.
Okay, based off this comment, I can tell that she has not done her homework in terms of college experience. When it comes to advanced degrees, you're there on assignment, you're there on mission, you're there because it's going to boost your career in some way. You're not there for a college experience, and it sucks that she didn't get that or have more of that. You'll hear in a minute, COVID kind of ruined her experience, which is unfortunate, but you have to move on from that and make more of a objective, non-emotional decision, especially something so big that's going to cost you a lot of money and can change your career through this degree. You want to make sure you approach it in more of a factual way. But the college experience, that's not a thing in law school. You're there to get in and get out. And again, I would coach her to talk to current law students. Like, what's their experience? Are they out partying or having a kind of college experience? Or are they studying and, working and trying to boost their career through law school? It's probably the latter. So if I was coaching her, I'd make her write a list of people she's talked to, compare that list with the other person, and think about what kind of experience you want. Because if it's the typical college experience, you're definitely not going to get that. So I would ask her, what experience do you want? Probably not going to get it in law school. Maybe if you go to another advanced degree program, you might get more of a college experience. But law school is so rigorous where if you're not studying or working, you're going to want to be sleeping and catching up on sleep because that's just the name of the game for 3 years in law school. So I would have her do her homework more on talking to people and what do you mean by experience?
It kind of does to a certain point.
I went to a really small school.
But I think for the people, and this is unfortunately a lot of Americans, for a lot of Americans, the best moment in their life is their 4-year in college. And that's incredibly sad and depressing because it means the best years of their life is behind them forever instead of them actually going out and living an amazing life. They just fall into the normal everyday traps of life. And then they just look back to their walkable years on a college campus when they actually had friends instead of living life. You can get a better life if you choose to and actually go and meet objectives that you want to do that aren't tied to just going to college. Yes, it's fun. It's fun. I had fun. Most people, I know, but most people.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks that she goes on to say she didn't have fun.
COVID kind of ruined it.
Oh, sure. But again, we can have fun.
And so she probably went from very social life, seeing friends and classmates in person, to having to go totally remote, which is very hard for anybody. But if you're choosing an advanced degree of this magnitude in law school, you definitely need to come at it with more of an objective approach and less emotion, and actually look long-term in your law career and how the school you go to can affect that. And also the student loan amount from an out-of-state school, when you have so many great schools in Texas already, can affect that as well. So I'm not going to continue it. I'm going to finish it here. They're just going to talk a little bit more about law school and going in state, and then he's going to get into making a budget for her, which hopefully will help and she'll stick to. So my recap of this financial audit coming up next. All right, so that was a pretty brutal financial audit, on the finance side, a little bit on the career and education side as well. But I just think that she's misinformed or doesn't really have the knowledge or the resources to really tap into researching and learning more about these law schools and kind of what she wants her future career to look like, and begin shaping her law school process to look like what she wants to do in the future within law. So based off of this financial audit, I kind of have 4 major takeaways from this video that I want to talk about. The first one being is using your degree. So the fact that she has a degree puts her in an advantageous position. I think that she's underemployed right now. I think she can use her degree and get good entry-level political science role in a government agency or a nonprofit, and taking advantage of being in the Houston area. And if she wants to work at HEB on the weekends or in the evenings when she's not studying for the LSAT, that's fine. But I think that she can get more hours and work full-time instead of part-time, what she's doing now, actually in her field, and begin to gain valuable experience, real-world applicability, working in a team environment in her field, that she can take and use that in her law school admissions process. So that'd be my first one. Is, the reality is that a lot of jobs that pay more, that lead to better career outcomes, require some form of education, mostly being a bachelor's degree. So Elise kind of already checks that box. I just think she's unaware of how to use her degree. If I was coaching her, again, I'd have her get on LinkedIn. I'd have her tap into her network. I'd have her write down who she knows. I'd have her researching nonprofits or what's in the Houston area that she can use to really get her foot in the door and begin networking and building connections that I think will serve her to get to law school and beyond. So that's my first takeaway, is use your degree. I think there's this misconception about liberal arts majors or degrees that they're easier, or you're not going to have a job, or they're useless. And that's the furthest from the truth. It may require some more creativity and getting really unique in how you approach applying for jobs. But there are tons of people out there who have, again, degrees in psych, who have a degree in art, history, Spanish, all these liberal arts programs, which are great programs that work in Fortune 500 companies, or they're working in very fulfilling careers. And so if you're someone who's about to graduate, or you are just out of school, newly out of school, and have a liberal arts degree, don't really know how to use it, I would tell you to research how the degree can be used. What are people who have your degree doing? To tap into your alumni network at your institution to see who you can connect with. But I think Elise will just have to get creative and use your location. If you're in a location that's near a big city, you're already kind of in a good space or proximity to a lot of kind of mission-driven organizations that want people who have a liberal arts background. There's so much benefit that they see in that, and I think that's a really great thing. So use that. If you're in a big metropolitan area like Elise is, I would have her take advantage of being in Houston, where I'm sure there's tons of great organizations. There's government organizations, there's probably nonprofits. There's so much you can do to begin getting experience. So if you find yourself in a similar position, take advantage of your resources and know that your degree is not useless. You may just have to work a little bit harder to find a job or a career that works best for you. All right, our second big takeaway is the power of talking to alumni and actually networking and speaking with others who are in positions that you want to be in. And so I would love to see Elise reach out to alums from both the universities of Texas and Michigan law schools and see what they're doing. Ask them questions about their employment, about the ROI. Did they think that this school prepared them to become an attorney? I would tell her to also talk to professors and those who are teaching classes? What's kind of the makeup of most of the students? What's their background? But really just tapping into the network. And I love what Caleb said about the University of Texas having one of the biggest endowments and alumni network. And that's very true. And I think that Elise can really take advantage of that. I know Michigan has a huge alumni base as well, but in this case, it would be more financially advantageous for her to go in-state and to attend an in-state law school like the University of Texas. And so I would coach her to get on LinkedIn, reach out directly to maybe the alumni office or to the law school alumni office and see who she can talk to, who she can conduct an informational interview with, and really begin to think about and shape kind of what she wants her future law career to look like. Of course, don't have to have it all figured out, but because she's wanting to take this huge step to pursue as big of a degree and a decision to go to law school, she needs to begin thinking about what are her passions, what within law does she enjoy doing, is there a certain specialty, a certain field of law that she enjoys, and talk to people who are in those positions, talk to people who've been through law school, talk to people from Texas, Michigan, talk to people who are in the field right now, and get to know what that process looks like and let that inform her decision. But just blindly choosing Michigan, and again, the audit didn't really say, like, has she talked to anyone? What research has she done outside of tuition? But because she's already knows the tuition and has researched that, I would play on that thread and have her take that a step further to begin talking to people. So I think we really see the value of networking and the value of using your alumni basis and talking to people in the field to help make such a big decision like this. My third takeaway, which I'm going to do a video on soon, is to evaluate, do you really need to go to grad school? Now, in this case, it seems that Elise kind of has her mind made up on going to law school. Again, know nothing about her passion or interest or specialty within law, but a lot of times we might think we need more education, but we really don't, or we can go about it in a much smarter way. And so I know this doesn't really apply to Elise per se because she seems dead set on law school, but for those of you who might be in a similar situation where you're contemplating law school, I'd really have you think about, do you really need it? Can you save up for it a little bit more first? Can you continue to work in your job and maybe have an employer pay for it? Can you take some cheaper courses online or certification programs? But really evaluate, does this advanced degree, in this case a law degree, is that really going to help my career and help me achieve my purpose and do what I want to do? And so again, in Elise's case, it seems that it is. She's pretty set on law school. If I was meeting with her, I would have her write down her passions, her interest in law, kind of her purpose, and use that to start. But think about, for those of you in similar situations, do you really need a grad degree? They're expensive, they can take a lot of time, they're a huge investment. And so before you kind of jump headfirst into one, do your homework, do your research, look at your kind of career trajectory, and will a degree help you make, advanced degree help you make more money? A lot of times it will, depending on kind of how you play your cards and what program it is, if it's an MBA, if it's something very specialized like a law degree, if it's like a public policy, a master's of education. But the research, says that the higher education you have, the more your income will increase typically over the course of your life. But there might be cheaper ways to have higher income than going and get another degree. So think about that, think through your options. But I think we see here the power of knowing what we want, knowing our purpose, and letting that drive us versus just trying to play into a narrative of our family or friends in that we might not actually want to do ourselves. My fourth and final takeaway is that you're in the driver's seat of your future and of your success. And I think we see here that with Elise, it's hard to truly get narratives out of your head, but I would really encourage her to think about, what do you want? What do you see for yourself? What do you envision your law career looking like? And use that to make maybe some more informed and better long-term decisions, not just ones based off emotion or details that don't matter like school rankings. And so you're in the driver's seat of your success. And I think that it's so powerful, especially coming out of undergrad. The saying, the world is your oyster, is cliche, but I think it's true. You have a lot of options. It can be overwhelming, but as you begin to kind of unlearn unhealthy voices or narratives, you really begin to see how much power you have, how much agency you have to actually make a choice to go to grad school or to not, or to work in the field or to not, or to do what you think is best for your education and for your career. And so I think Elise has so much potential. It's very courageous of her to put her personal personal information and bank account and educational goals, all of that open to the public through this financial audit. I just think she's misguided with her family, maybe some really bad narratives or advice. I think she's just misinformed and doesn't really have the resource or guidance to make more informed and better decisions. But I think she has a ton of potential. And I think so many of us find ourselves, like Elise, kind of in this pickle, in this middle ground of trying to make our own path. But we have, a family member over here, a friend over here, and we're trying to figure it out, and it's messy. And that leads us to make poor decisions. And in this case, for her financially, unfortunately, but it can happen to all of us. I've been there. So I hope that Elise can begin to unpack those narratives of her parents and begin to see that she's in control. I would encourage her to talk to a therapist, to work through that, to talk to a trusted friend or mentor, and really begin to think about, Elise, what do you want? Who do you want to be? How do you see your purpose and your mission in life being furthered in a law career? What part of law do you love that you really want to help people through? Because law can be a very rewarding career, but I think you just have to kind of find where you fit in. But you definitely can, and I would encourage her in that path. Would love to just see her get on track in terms of doing more research, slow down, kind of unpack the narratives that she has about prestige and rankings and all this stuff that may not matter as much as she thinks it does. But I think she has a ton of potential, and I would love to see her take those next steps toward law school, take those next steps toward more fulfilling career, but just do it in a more informed way. Talk to people, make connections, do it in a more financially feasible way, which may mean you have to take a few years to work and to build your industry experience before going to law school, which is totally fine. She was 24? So there's still several years left in your 20s and even early 30s to become an attorney and to have a fulfilling career. So Elise, wish you the best, and I would love for Caleb to maybe do kind of a follow-up with her. I'd be really interested in hearing about her next steps. Well, that is my reaction to Caleb Hammer's financial audit. As you saw, there was a lot to get through and unpack there. So if you found this video helpful at all, or found yourself maybe questioning your next steps or your path, or should you go to grad school or not, if any part resonated with you, drop it below in the comments. I would love to hear from you and kind of hear where you are. If you found this video helpful at all, consider liking and subscribing. And thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Wow.